do I go today? I go east or north, south, or north? I'm gonna go south. Okay, the reason I rode today a little bit, first thing I wanted to do is show off this is my Lectric XP 2.0. This is my Hercules bag that I got from Harbor Freight. This is the Panier bag that I got from Amazon. And what I packed in here, first thing I got in there, this is my freezer bag. I have some food in there I wanted to fool with today. This is my rugged camping table that I got from Amazon. Put that down there. You can see I still have a lot of room in here. I even bought a cutting board from the dollar store. Some basic equipment there. And this is the GoSun Go that my daughter bought for me last year around this time. So I'm gonna stick that there. And then finally, I bought a breakfast bowl that I'm gonna try to use in the GoSun Go. Let me use that. And finally, Ozark Trail camping. This is the camping chair that I got from there. Managed to get all of that on this bicycle without a trailer. Still tempted to get the trailer though. But I'm gonna set this stuff up and then I'll take my next step. Okay, so now this is my complete setup. Again, I had the Hercules bag. And for those that asked a question about how I managed to put this bag in here, you'll look, I got the extra long metric screws that bolt directly down to the bike. So what I had to do is I had to put the panniers on first, and then I had to find a hole in the panniers. I drilled the holes in this 1x8, and by drilling the holes in the 1x8, that allowed me to put this bag on the bike. And so that is that. That is the, I call it a day camping setup. Okay, here's the table, here's the chair, course, you should always have a good, always make sure you have a good lock. Okay. I'm gonna fool around and cook this Jimmy Dean. Have me a chair. I bought some things just in case things didn't work out. I started off with a couple of sausage. I may not use them. I put an easy pack in there, a couple of bottles of water. That's all I'm gonna need. When you're riding, you don't want to fool around and mess yourself up with that. So that's what we're gonna do today. That's the game plan. Let's see what happens. Okay, my next task. Get the Jimmy Dean inside of the solar grill. Again, this is a go son go. And the way that, supposedly the way that these things work, I've used it a couple of times and probably messed it up a few times too, but what it consists of is solar reflectors. It has a tray. Now, I went ahead and spent a little extra money because the last time I used this, this is so dirty it gets really hard to clean. So these guys sell these little deals that you can put inside there. So, and evidently they don't melt. So I figured I'd go ahead and invest in that. And we're gonna take some of this, I'm gonna throw it in here. Then I guess what I'll do is I might cut one of these guys up and put it in there. I figure I'll probably cook it for around 20 to 30 minutes. It is very hot, it's very bright. There's no real hardcore clouds, and I have a lot of area that I can use that's open for sunlight over in here. So that's what I'm gonna do next. You know, actually this camper chair ain't a bad thing. I used to think it was kind of too low, but I'm kind of discovering it's not half bad. Good thing about the little breakfast bowl, there ain't no way on God's planet that I'm gonna be able to, you know, I guess these are kind of set to be kind of microwavable. I wanted some eggs today though, so I just have to kind of man up and see how much I can get up in here. I don't need all of this. It did have, what, got some bacon pieces in it. So I know I can't get it all in here. Or maybe, oh God, look at that. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and just do just this. Thought about the sausage. Yeah, well, what I might do is I'll get as much of this in here that I can bear. Then I'm gonna take and cut up some slices of one of these sausage, put this back in the bag, and take it back home with me. So I only traveled about 2.5, 3 miles. I'm not that far away, so not half bad. So okay, let's get the next thing. Okay, so I'm not going to put the sausage in right now. I'm going to just work with this for the moment. But what you do is this goes into this sleeve, right? And then on the grill itself, this is the part that I think is flawed in the design, but when this swivels, that leaves the parabolic curve the way they're supposed to be. And then under here, this supposedly allows you either stand this up vertically so you can heat water. And then I bought this little dial. What this dial supposedly does is you line this up with the sun, and it supposedly will maximize the amount of supposed to give you the right angle for the sunlight. So in this kind of, you know, I guess you don't want to turn the thing halfway around and mess it up, but I've done it once, so I'll try it again. What I'll do, I don't know if that's a good enough spot. Okay, I'm gonna stick it right here. You see the little dial? See the little dial right there? The objective is to get the sun to line up with that little dot. And so if you do that, and right now I got them, I got the two of them lined up. That's supposed to be the maximum amount of sunlight that makes these grills work. So, okay, I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna go set some other stuff up. Oh, well, since I'm here, bought a little extra chicken salad. Oh, gorgeous. He is gorgeous. Wow, awesome. Well, one thing we don't lack here is big, beautiful animals, but what's on my mind what's kind of on my mind today is what type of content I want to start working with from here on out. Since this is more of a hobby, I'm not trying to make money, but sometimes there are things that I see that are pretty important. What I decided to do, and from this point on, I'm not going to try to follow something that's mass produced, because that inhibits my creativity. I try to work around it, and I like the way that they say you can kind of decorate yourself. I'm not a decorator. I'm a professional home designer, so I don't like to follow rules on where things should be, you know, on something like that, because it's that's a mass-produced product. The things that I would put out there would cause you to, they would have to completely reassemble their assembly line so that they can try to accommodate somebody, and that's not the right thing to do. That's not how you sell homes. I respect that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to use the dimensions of some of the things that I see there. I am going to take the ADUs. I think I've designed in the past 4 or 5 years while I'm in California ADUs. I think I've done almost 100 ADUs. The one thing that I see out here is that these guys are dedicated to trying to make money off of anything. It's not really about the quality of life with the people. It's about how can I make some money. And a lot of times I've watched some of the builders out here force their ideas onto people because, oh, I want an ADU, and then, you know, some builder maybe is a carpenter, I don't know what the heck, he has no training what the heck soever in any kind of profession other than building them. And they get an idea in their head, and then they force it on to the customers, and then you end up with a shitty design, and then they have the audacity to ask somebody like me, well, what do you think? Well, I think it's shitty. And I'll just put it out there like that. I'm not going to bite my tongue or stutter about it. So what I found in California in particular, since it's an older place, the older homes, the sizes of the garages, because a lot of times you find that everyone's doing conversions to their garages. That's where the most money is made in creating ADUs. I find that the majority of the garages are either like 14 feet wide, 18 feet wide, 20 feet wide. They're usually 20 feet deep, 20 foot 3 inches deep. So the majority of the designs that I've had to do over the years were strictly on 18 foot wide garages or 14 foot wide garages. They're all usually 18 to 20 feet long. You know, they were built before SUVs and big long land yachts and whatnot. So I would say 90% of these garages are never used. Now, what's being thrown at us in the industry right now is for every one of those that I convert, now I'm seeing a trend where there are these companies out here, let's sell us an ADU, right? And they have a one-size-fit-all attitude. And what they fail to consider, or what the customer fails to consider, is that there are things called setbacks that are in the cities. You have to be 5 feet from the side, 5 feet from the back, and then you'll get someone that'll try to slam 700 or 800 or 900 square feet at you, and they'll encourage you to tear down what you have and put their building back there, and we've got everything all figured out. Next thing you know, you've paid $300,000 or $400,000 for an ADU, and then you consequently end up having to charge somebody $3,000 to $4,000 a month. And the whole reason behind the ADU was that they wanted to make sure that they could accommodate housing. Now, I can assure you that it's more political crap, and that's fine. You know, people are going to do. Remember, a city is not a government. A city is an incorporation. Therefore, a city is a business, and a business is to make money. So the city will find a way to make money off of you by using ordinances and whatever they do, and that's just life. This is life in California, pretty much everywhere else too, for that matter. I'm not going to just limit it to California. But then when you look at something like that, you have the average Joe, they're trying to make a little extra money. They're going to spend anywhere from $75,000 to $150,000 just to convert a garage, because you have to get plumbing back there, you have to get electrical back there. I have a previous video where it shows pretty much what it will take to put an ADU together. But when you do something like that, they have to pay. And then some of the people try to use the Airbnb approach. Well, the cities became a little more sensitive to that, so they passed more ordinances that will make you, if you're going to have anyone stay in your building that you created and that you paid for, they want the person to stay in there a minimum of 30 to 60 days. So that pretty much destroys the concept of having an Airbnb. So you're not going to see a whole heck of a lot of Airbnb activity here in the future, as far as, you know, for people using ADUs in that manner. They want you to put occupants in these ADUs. So now, since you can't make money off the Airbnb, then you have to rent this thing out, and now you're renting it out, and I find that the minimum that I've seen for an ADU rental is $1,700 a month, and that's low end. I've seen ADUs go as high as $4,000 to $5,000 a month, depending upon the area that they're in. So I'll ask you a question. If you are not a person that makes a lot of money and you want to go and live in an ADU, the ADU averages around anywhere from 380 to 1,200 square feet. What are the chances that you're going to be able to afford that? They're more expensive than apartments, because the people spent the money to try to make an extra income so that they can afford the homes that they live in. So tell me what you think about that. Now I'm going to interject something at this moment that I've never done. And this is an ADU that I did in Burbank a couple of years ago. And I'm throwing this in here because Burbank is no longer the easiest place on the planet to try to create anything. Most of the architects that I know do not even want to deal with Burbank because it's just too damn difficult. But in any event, this one I managed to get through. I'm showing it because it's 480 square feet. It's a 1 bedroom, 1 bath. It's not a bad little ADU. The client was just absolutely a dream to work with. She's very appreciative. The thing that I will show about it is that it's not anything significant. I mean, this is exactly how they forced me to build it. I originally wanted to put just a bracket in, a bracket there. They wanted some ungodly calculations, and for the sake of time, I just said, I'll forget it. I'll just throw some posts in there, and I left it alone. The other thing about it, I'll just show a quickie overview of it just to show how it looks. So, you know, it has a pretty cool little kitchen. Kitchen layout's pretty nice. Has a decent living room. The bed's antiquated, kind of sucks, but I threw it in there just so I can let them know that you can put a queen size bed in it. Has a nice little closet. I put these guys together pretty quickly, or close together, so that they wouldn't get in the way. Or if I moved it over here, it looks like I'm wasting space here, but it does serve a purpose. The other thing that I dealt with on this was putting a washer and dryer stackable in here, and a place for, you know, pretty much a standard shower. Nice toilet, you know, basic stuff. So I did all of that together to show, yes, it was built, and I'm going to show some pictures of it. Okay, I want to take some time to talk a few things about ADUs that people don't normally talk about. You'll see this line right here. I'm showing this because it's 27 inches away from the property line, and these cities are very strict about things like this. You'll notice that this has to be fire rated. You can't put any doors, and you cannot put any windows along a fire rated wall. Anything under the specific amount of square footage or the specific length to the property line, they'll make you do a fire rated wall. You can't touch it, and you have to design around it. The other thing too I want to show here is that anytime you build a new wall, then it has to be a minimum setback of 5 feet away from the property line. And so I wanted to show that here because this is one of those scenarios where you can see this is how an ADU begins. And you know, the one-stop shop, you better make sure that it can meet the minimum requirements, even if you have a tiny home. Even if you buy a box or an Incredibox. An Incredibox in California, or at least in LA, it has to be a minimum of 4 feet away from the property line on all the sides. So take that in consideration if you're going to put an MTH in. Now, also what I want to show here is I want to show let's see, these are other things that are involved. You have to show them lateral. So look, your garage has to withstand an earthquake. So that's another thing that's part of the requests or the requirements. That's one. And then in addition to that, if you're using the existing one, you have to put coating on the grade so that if there's any radon or anything like that, they want to make sure that it doesn't come up through the existing slab in your garage. Okay, that's if you're doing a conversion such as this. And so that's the other part that would be involved with this, something like that. And so these are things that are normally not discussed, and they can either make your ADU expensive or they can make it cheap. Just depends upon your approach. But I can guarantee you this, these are not designed for the homeless. You know, by the time you spend the money on something like this, you're going to start it around a minimum of $75,000. That's low end, and you're going to crank yourself all the way up to $200,000 on an ADU. So if that's the case, you have to ask yourself, what would I charge for someone to rent something like this? And considering that I spent the amount of money that I spent for it to take place, hey, I can't start for anything under $2,000 a month unless I have a family member in it. In most cases, you'll find that most of the ADUs either have a family member or they're going for some expensive amount. And believe you me, they're not using Airbnbs because they started making rules for that too. That's not happening. But thought I would just interject that. So, why is that all such a big deal, and why am I even talking about it right now? You said all of that to say what, Ace? What I'm saying is that if you're going to do an ADU, I am going to show the similarities between the ADU and their layouts and see if I can implement some of the ideas of even the things that I experimented with the Incredibox, put those in the ADUs, and show the sizes. For example, if there's an 18-foot ADU, if it's 18 by 20, and I've seen the 10 by 20 Incrediboxes, right, or the 10 by 20 ADUs, period. It doesn't even have to be Incredibox. And I'm going to show some layouts of some of the solutions that I have, just to show that there's a ton of ways that you can approach these things and try to steer your minds away from the industrial approach and try to do a little more creative ideas. It's really about the interior. We can make the exteriors look like whatever we want, but those interiors, you have to ask yourself intelligent questions like, how many people are going to live in these things? You know, if you're intending to live in it. The bottom line is, if you're living in it, you want as maximum comfort. And, you know, do you want a full-size bed versus a queen-size bed versus a king-size bed? I previously created an episode where I used a platform for lifting up and down and not having so many lofts, because it seems like there's an obsession with having lofts for space. I've seen it in some tiny houses and not just so much movable tiny houses. So I'm going to experiment with that a little more. But this time, I'm going to create them and I'm going to show how they're framed. I've had some trolls say, well, I just said you couldn't do that. Well, you know something? I never seen you swing a hammer, so you're not qualified to talk about what I'm doing. But I'm going to show how it goes together piece by piece and show how it could work in multiple sizes. The one that I did previously was for a full-size bed because it was in an 8-foot space. But if you have a 10-foot space, you can go to a queen-size bed and you can still work with stairs. You can look at storage. There's multiple uses. What are the heights? I know that in an Incredibox, the maximum height I saw was 10 feet, even though within 10 feet you have a lot of space to work with. But if you're really working in an 8-foot space, then you're losing some of that space. So you want to minimize the height of a platform if you were to have one. And the whole objective behind that was to just create more sleepable space. You could actually create 2 bedrooms or 2 sleeping spaces in one space, and that was kind of the intent that I had when I created that. Anyhow, that is kind of what I'm leaning toward. And also, what I'm going to do is I've been given the privilege of some of the clients that I've worked with. They have allowed me to either photograph, they sent me photographs, they sent me videos. I am going to share on each of those what, how their spaces turned out in real time. Everything's not a theory, everything's not a design, everything's not a so-called 3D. And then from this point on, I'm going to try to attempt to work with more immersive concepts. Most people are just simply looking for ideas. I'm all in for that. That's what it's really about. And hopefully, if I do my job right, you will be inspired to try something for yourself. And if you have an idea, send it to me. I'll be more than happy to look at it, and I'll tell you whether or not it works. Or I would, if it seemed like it's a great idea, I would be inclined, if it's a great idea, to see if I can replicate it and share it with everyone else, if that's what you guys want to do. But I think that's kind of the direction I want to take things. It's all about ideas. It's not about clout. I'm not in it for money. I work for a living like everyone else. That's why I don't post as much. But I do like sharing ideas. I do know what's at stake. And what's at stake, folks, is that we're in a housing crisis. Don't let anybody fool you. We are all fighting for the right to exist. And you have haves and they're the have-nots, and the have-nots are in trouble. Okay, so it's been about 15 minutes out here in the sun. I want to see just where are we at with my little breakfast. A little slow today. It's not frozen. That's a good thing. And it's starting to expand. That means it's cooking. But it also tells me I need to take a little stronger look at the angle that I have on here. The one thing that you're not told about these little solar grills is for the maximum effect, you have to be able to follow the sun, and the sun doesn't stand still. So you have to track this thing as much as you can. Here's one flaw in my assessment of the Panier, that this is a flaw that was more on my part. But you see where the kickstand is located on the bike. The Panier is actually low, so they kind of interfere with each other. It's not trouble putting it up, but as far as just kicking my foot back there and dropping it down, not the easiest thing to do. But those are a couple of things that I'm dealing with while I'm sitting here. Part of the objective today is to pick me a place where I can relax. There are tons of parks like this in Burbank and Glendale, and I absolutely love this park because it's in the middle of a nice neighborhood. They have tennis courts and all this other fun stuff here to do. Not that I would be here for this. Usually when I go somewhere, I just want to go somewhere and be quiet and try to relax my mind. I mean, I'm not going to relax my body. That's just an impossibility. I'm on a bike, but I do want to relax my mind. And this place is pretty good for that. Okay. Now I'm getting up around, approaching like 30 minutes. Okay. Oh, yeah. We're good and hot now. So I figured it'd be about 30 minutes, but I think I'm gonna aim for ridiculously hot and give it another 10 just to be honoring. Now I have, let's see, I have that Go Sun Go. I also have one of those little wood burning ones, the Red Camp. I have the Red Camp stove. I'm usually tempted to bring it, but anytime you have a fire, I mean, if I were to use it, I could only put it on an existing barbecue grill or something like that, which is at the park. Otherwise, they'll mess with you. Very sensitive to fire, especially since we have fires going on right now. So I have that. I have 2 butane stoves, which are okay, but I like to use those inside because they are, you know, I come in the doggy in truck and sometimes even in the house. As far as, what's the other thing I have? I have a little propane. I have one of those mini back camper stoves, but I have to be careful with those. I'm not that keen on using the propane. I'm real careful. But this one, what I do like about the Go Sun Go is that there's no fire, and so I can pretty much throw this thing anywhere provided that the weather permits. And it's probably one of the, it doesn't take up too much space on the bike, but I kind of like it for that. And so, not enough room on this table for all the stuff I'm doing, but there you have it. There's my grill. There's my food. It's cooked pretty well. The cheese is melted. Ooh, these are hot. Okay, yeah. I think I'm just gonna eat straight out the tube today. Ouch, that's hot. I have to be careful with these. They're very deceiving. You're not getting away, buddy. You getting eaten. But they're very deceiving on how hot they get. I keep burning myself. But this is actually pretty cool. So, I'll talk to you guys in a minute. I'm going to eat this. I may even stick it back out there again. And I still have some remaining food. I might slice up one of those sausages and do that too. But again, Go Sun Go. Hey. Well, I put that down pretty quick. It was excellent. I'll be honest with you guys. That little bit that I put in the Go Sun Go was equivalent to 1/2 of that bowl of the Jimmy Dean's. So of course, since it was so good, I just put the other half in there. I'm going to hang out for at least another 30 minutes until that's done, eat that, and then find out what else I can get myself into while I'm here. You know, some of the things that we do for space. Personal space is a battle. You do all that you can to find your peace. You do whatever it takes. And so, this is my Go Sun Go breakfast. Just to know, folks, if you don't take time for yourself, everybody else will take it for you, and they don't have any trouble doing so. Just thought I'd share that thought. Well, for the most part, this is a successful outing. The objective was to get out of my environment enough where I could clear my mind and try to put some thoughts together. For the most part, I think I accomplished that. So I'm going to wrap this video up. Hopefully the next few videos that I have from this point will be something a little more creative and not so much more me expressing my thoughts. You guys do whatever you can to try to keep your mental peace. See you next time.